ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਰੇਡੀਓ USA ਸੁਣ ਰਹੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਮਾਣਯੋਗ ਅਤੇ ਸਤਿਕਾਰ ਸਰੋਤਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਸਤਿਕਾਰ ਸਹਿਤ ਨਿੱਘੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਆਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸੋ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਵਿਸ਼ੇਸ਼ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਮਾਹੌਲ ਗਰਮਾਇਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਆ। ਜੂਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀਜ਼ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਆ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਆ, ਉਸੇ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਜ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਉਣ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। ਇਹ ਸਾਬਕਾ ਅਸੈਂਬਲੀ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਵੀ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਵਾਰ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫਿਰ ਅਸੈਂਬਲੀ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਆਪਣਾ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਆ ਉਹ ਦਾਅ ਤੇ ਲਾ ਰਹੇ ਆ। ਸੋ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ ਕੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, ਕੀ ਉਹ ਕੈਂਪੇਨ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਉਹ ਰਨ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ। ਸੋ now we have with us is Mr. Kensen Chu, former assembly member District 25, and he's now running for Assembly District 24. Mr. Kensen Chu, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Raj, and it's really a pleasure to be in your show. You know, I've been really working very closely to your community, Punjabis, and like TJ Dami was very helpful with my campaign, and he's like a brother to me.
Thank you. So, Mr. Kensen, I would like to start off talking. How is the campaign trail going? How's the campaign going right now?
Campaign is doing very well. We have less than 2 weeks or 13 days to the election day. I would just encourage all the listeners to please fill up your ballot and drop it in mail. It is so important because a lot of government, they look at those data when it comes to the government funding.
ਓਕੇ ਸੋ ਸਰੋਤੇ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਘਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੈਲਟਸ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹੋਣੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਓ ਆ। ਸੋ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਕੈਂਸਨ ਚੂ, you were assembly member earlier, but you took a leave of absence. What was the reason you got away from politics for some time?
No, I didn't really quite get away from politics. I'm still serving on the various school board and also the state commission on the private post-secondary education. But the reason I left Sacramento is because I need to be closer to home to care for my very sick mother. And she passed away peacefully at home last year. And now I wanted to bring my years of immigrant experience, my work experience. You know, I worked at IBM for 18 years, and we have some small business, a restaurant with my wife, and my 20 years of government services experience. I started off as serving on the board of various school districts, and I was elected to San Jose City Council for 8 years, and then got elected to the assembly for 6 years. And because of the redistricting after the 2020 census, now the District 25 is pretty much, it's renumbered to 24. And also we have the whole city of Fremont. Before I only have half of the Fremont. Now I give up the city of Santa Clara and have the whole city of Fremont. So it is the campaign is doing pretty good, you know, because throughout my years of services, I really get very close at the grassroots level, you know, with people from all walks of life, and I think that's I'm very you know, happy to have the opportunity to serve the people in this very diverse community again.
Okay, so ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਸੋ ਸਰੋਤਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਜਾਈਏ ਇਹ ਸੈਨ ਹੋਜ਼ੇ ਸਿਟੀ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਮੈਮ ਵੀ ਰਹੇ ਆ 2007 ਤੋਂ 2014 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 2014 ਤੋਂ 2020 ਤੱਕ ਇਹ ਸਟੇਟ ਅਸੈਂਬਲੀ ਮੈਨ ਰਹੇ ਆ 25th district ਤੋਂ। So as you were telling, with redistricting, a lot of boundaries have changed. The whole city of Fremont is now under District 24. So what are the key challenges for your district, your constituents?
You know, public safety is my number one concern.
Mm-hmm.
You see those massive shooting, and you see the snap and grab, the
Mm.
robberies, and the senseless killing. And so public safety is my really number one concern. And because I started my public services serving voluntarily at the county mental health board.
Okay.
So I'm very, 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 very strong to provide better mental health services, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it was solve some of the public safety issue and also some homelessness issue.
Mm.
And another thing, it is very important. I mean, I think it's all important to any Asian immigrant family's education.
Mm.
So I will definitely work on to improve the K to 12 education and lower the cost of the higher education in California.
Okay. How do you plan to deal with these things, smash and grab things? Law enforcement says their hands are tied. They cannot basically prosecute anybody who has done stealing or burglaries of less than $950 value. So,
Right.
what are the things, what are the changes you would like to implement?
The reason that the police or public safety feel people feel that their hands are tied is because of some state law are too lenient to those criminals,
Mm-hmm.
and those state laws are actually made by the state legislature. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back there, right, trying to put some common sense and make sure that our law will give those criminals some consequences, and when not necessarily say, well, lock them up, but we need to provide them with the services that they need to be able to reform to contributing to our society. But those people, they are repeat violence criminals. I think they need to be locked up. To address the public safety issue, we have to go from three different approaches. One is the prevention. We need to address the mental health issue. We need to address the addiction issue because a lot of people are addicted to some illegal drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And we also need to educate the people to be more vigilant out there in the community. So that's the prevention side we can do through education and to provide some critical needed services like mental health and providing some job training skill so they be able to make a living without just
Mm-hmm.
becoming a professional criminals.
Mm.
So that's the prevention part, and the second part is the intervention part. That we need to increase the funding for police training and some crime fighting equipment. That's very key. That's the intervention. How soon the public safety people, the police, be able to get to the crime scene. That's the police funding side. And the third side and the third part is the legislation. We need to have some law that will make sure that those repeat violent criminals have the consequences.
Hmm. Okay, so Mr. Kensen Chu, as you're saying, you want to repeat violent criminals. They should stay in jail till they're being processed by the whole system and everything.
Definitely,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
then we need to really provide some training, some mental health services in our prison as well. So we're
Mm.
not just lock them up, but we should focus on reforming, and make sure that when they serve their term, they will be able to come out as a productive uh, uh, citizen.
Members of the society. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my members of our community, right?
Mm. Yeah. So as you mentioned, all these cities, they have many small businesses, small entrepreneurs. Many of them are Punjabis and other immigrants who came to this country to have their American dream fulfilled. So, as you mentioned, a lot of smash and grabs and other many public safety issues, their businesses they have to face. So, as an assembly member, what can you actually do to improve their safety?
We're just definitely increasing the police force,
Hmm.
and also diversify the police force, so they will really more understanding of different cultures. We're living in a very very diverse community. I think so. I think we need to also focusing on diversing the police force, and then provide them with the training to understand the cultural sensitivities and so on and so forth. So we need to definitely increase the police funding. And secondly, we will encourage that the small business person have some security camera, in their shops, and so we'll be able to catch some images again, depending on the funding for the police. I'm hoping that the police have enough manpower to really go after those criminals. And then again, that's the third part is that we need to make sure that the repeat professional criminals got locked up.
Okay. So, talking about if we see California is pretty diverse, highly populated state, and we see especially the area you would like to serve. It has a lot of IT companies, software companies, IT professionals, and all those kind of peoples. A lot
Yes,
of companies have been like getting out of California. They are getting away from Bay Area and to other places like Texas and many other states. So, as an assembly member, what are the things you would like to make sure that these companies stay here? If the companies are here, the employment is here. If these companies are gone, and basically we lose so many jobs, and a lot of people will get unemployed.
yeah. I work at IBM. I came to the United States as a graduate student, and after I received my master's degree in electronic engineering, I worked for IBM and had many opportunities to work for some smaller company. So to keep our California economy going, we need to make sure those companies will stay in California. Public safety is a concern, and also some of the tax laws needs to be revisited and to provide some incentive for the small business to stay in California.
Hmm. Okay. So definitely these are the many issues you are trying to raise. So what other issues, what other challenges you face right now? Or what are your constituents saying other than these things, which are priority for them right now?
Right, there's some congestion in the freeway,
Mm-hmm.
especially on A80 or 680, when you have to go from A80 to 680, you have to use the Mission Boulevard to to
Mm-hmm.
to do the connection, and that's only zero point 0.7 miles. So
Hmm.
I would have been always strong advocating to connect the 680 and A80 near Mission Boulevard with either underground freeway connection or overhead above grade connection to avoid the congestions on the freeway as well as in the Mission Boulevard. And I'm also being also very strongly advocating to have bring BART to downtown San Jose.
Hmm.
So right now the BART stop at the Berryessa,
Yeah.
but in order to increase the ridership, to really make advantage of the system, we need to bring BART to downtown San Jose. That's also very, very important. So there's a lot of transportation issue I'd like to work on, and also some environmental issue. We're facing another year of drought,
Mm-hmm.
and we're always being threatened with what we used to call the century fire, which means that those big fires will only occur every 100 years. Now, with the reality is those century fires is happening multiple times
Hmm.
within a year. So those wildfire issue also need to be addressed, and also increase the water storage capacity, as
Mm-hmm.
well as the water recycling capacity in California to sustain the growth that we're experiencing right now.
Hmm.
And the other issue, definitely, is the homelessness issue.
Mm-hmm.
We need to increase the inventory of our housing, and also help those first time home buyers or those renters that they they have no problem of paying the month to month rent, but they may not have the money to pay for the first month and last month's deposit. I think the government can step in and help them with their deposit,
Mm-hmm.
and also help them with the first time down payment, so they be able to move into a home, apartment, and not be wandering out in our streets. So there's the California is at the crossroad.
Hmm.
We're having a lot of issues, and we need to focus on our the issues that really affecting our daily life, and not to promote some progressive ideas that I don't think it should be implemented at the state level, and I don't think this is the time to work on it, because we do have some problems, that we need to resolve, and before we take on another
Mm-hmm.
issues.
Okay. So how is affordable housing? Like people are getting driven out of like out of cities now. They can't even afford to live there, especially people working minimum wage jobs. They can't afford to live in
Mhm.
cities like San Jose, Fremont, Milpitas. So they're getting so expensive to live in. Affordability is a big question. How would you address
Right.
it?
I think we need to improve our massive transportation system, so
Mm-hmm.
people can live away from the industrial hub, like the city of Fremont and the city of San Jose, and be able to commute to work without spending a lot of time waiting. Get stuck on the freeway, and so transportation is very, very important, to relieve some of the housing crisis that we have in Silicon Valley.
How do you plan? Like, are you planning to put in some new BART lines, new rail lines, or how do you want to deal with it? Because
Yeah,
I've been
I
listening
like
about high-speed rail for more than 10 years.
yeah,
It's not going
right,
anywhere.
right. The high speed rail is a great disappointment for so many of us. But to connect the Silicon Valley through the Central Valley through on the ultimate path, I think it's very, very important.
Hmm.
We a lot of people live in Central Valley, and Tracy area, and but they commute to work in Silicon Valley. So some kind of rail connection between across the ultimate path
Hmm.
is very crucial.
Hmm. Well. So there are so many issues, especially when you live in the Bay Area. There are many other issues which other people don't see. when they're living in different parts of the state. So thank you, Mr.
Right.
Kensen Chu, for
Oh,
your
thank
time.
you.
So if you have
Thank you
anything
so
else
much.
to add to our talk, feel free to say a few words in the end.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for having me here. I just wanted to encourage all the listeners to please vote and vote for Kensen Chu for State Assembly. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Kensen Chu. So ਇਹ ਸਨ
Thank you, Rod.
ਕੈਂਸਨ ਚੂ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅਸੈਂਬਲੀ ਡਿਸਟ੍ਰਿਕਟ 24 ਦੇ ਲਈ ਇਸ ਵਾਰ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਲੜ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਇਨਕੰਬੈਂਟ ਐਲੈਕਸ ਲੀ ਦੇ ਖਿਲਾਫ ਇਹ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਡਟੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਲੱਗੀ? ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ, ਦੂਜੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੋਟ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਪਾਇਓ, ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਪਾਇਓ। ਇਹ ਆਪਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕਰਦੇ। ਹੁਣ ਇੱਥੇ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੀ ਸਮਾਪਤੀ ਆ। ਮੇਰੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ।